The old Victorian house stood on a hill, overlooking the town. Its silhouette was a haunting presence against the evening sky, a relic of a bygone era. It was a grand old place with dark brooding eyes and secrets hidden within its walls. The windows, like eyes, seemed to follow you, and the overgrown garden whispered tales of forgotten times. The Thompson family, excited for a fresh start, moved in one warm summer day. They were drawn to the house's charm and history, hoping to make it their new home. John, the father, saw potential in the house. He envisioned restoring it to its former glory, a project that would bring the family closer together. Mary, the mother, saw beauty in its decay. She appreciated the intricate details and craftsmanship, imagining the stories the house could tell. But young Emma, their daughter, felt a chill. The house's eerie presence unsettled her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. The first night was the quietest they'd ever known. The silence was unnerving. Emma felt a presence, something unseen but undeniably there, lurking in the shadows. Something watched from the shadows. The house seemed to breathe, its old wooden floors creaking under an invisible weight. A whisper, barely audible, sent shivers down her spine. It was as if the house itself was trying to communicate, its voice a faint echo of the past. "Help me," it seemed to say. Emma's heart raced as she tried to understand the message. Was it a plea from a restless spirit, or just her imagination running wild in the dead of night? Emma, just 7, couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her toys moved on their own. Shadows danced in the corner of her eye. She told her parents, but they dismissed it as an active imagination. "It's just an old house, Emma," her mother would say. But Emma knew better. One night she woke to a cold hand on her shoulder. A whisper, closer this time, breathed her name. Terrified, she ran to her parents' room, but they were sound asleep. Alone in the dark, Emma felt the fear take root. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to come from the walls themselves, from the very air Emma breathed. They spoke of sorrow, of anger, of a deep, abiding loneliness. Emma started seeing things, fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, eyes that blinked in the darkness. She stopped playing in her room, afraid of what she might find. Her once bright eyes grew clouded with fear. Her laughter, once a constant melody in the house, was replaced by a haunted silence. The house was changing her. The shadows weren't content to stay hidden. They began to stretch, to reach out, their forms shifting and swirling like smoke. One night, as John sat reading, a shadow crept across the wall, twisting into the shape of a hand reaching for him. He dismissed it as a trick of the light, but the fear was a cold knot in his stomach. He, too, began to hear the whispers. They were fainter for him, but they were there, weaving their way into his dreams, his waking thoughts. Section 5. A Family's Dread. The Thompson family was changing. John, once a pillar of strength, became withdrawn, his eyes haunted by unseen things. Mary, her cheerful disposition fading, clung to a fragile hope that it was all just a bad dream. But Emma, she knew the truth. This was no dream. This was their new reality. Meals were eaten in silence, the air thick with unspoken fear. The once warm lights of the house seemed to dim, casting long, ominous shadows. The house, once full of promise, was now a prison of fear. Section 6. Seeking Answers. Desperate for answers, Mary sought help from the town librarian, a kindly old woman with a knowing look in her eyes. The library was a place of refuge, a sanctuary of knowledge, but tonight it felt different. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, and the shadows seemed to whisper secrets of their own. "The house," the librarian whispered, her voice raspy with age. "It remembers." Her words hung in the air, heavy and foreboding, as if the very walls of the library were listening. She spoke of a family that had lived there before, of a tragedy that had stained the walls with sorrow. The family had been happy once, their laughter echoing through the halls, but that joy had been replaced by a deep, unending sorrow. The house, she explained, was haunted by the echoes of their pain, their anger, their fear. These emotions had seeped into the very fabric of the house, creating an atmosphere of unease and dread. And now, those echoes were reaching out, seeking solace, seeking release. They were not just memories but restless spirits, trapped in a cycle of torment, yearning for someone to understand their plight. "They want you to hear them," the librarian warned, "to feel their pain." Her eyes bore into Mary's, filled with a mixture of pity and urgency. The spirits were desperate, and they had chosen Mary as their conduit, their last hope for peace. Facades. Section 8. The Ritual. The historian believed that the Blackwood spirits were trapped, unable to find peace. He spoke of a ritual, a way to appease the spirits and free them from their torment. He gave Mary an old leather-bound book, its pages filled with strange symbols and incantations. The ritual, he warned, was dangerous, but it was their only hope. If they failed, the spirits would continue to haunt the house, feeding on their fear, their despair, until there was nothing left. Section 9. Trapped. John, initially skeptical, was swayed by the growing terror in his wife's eyes. They gathered in the house's darkened parlor, the air thick with incense and fear. As they began the ritual, the house seemed to come alive around them. The whispers grew louder, angrier. The shadows danced with a malevolent energy. The temperature plummeted. And then, the house seemed to hold its breath. They were trapped, caught in a web of their own making. Section 10. A Desperate Plea. Emma, her small body trembling with fear, reached out with her mind, seeking not to banish the spirits but to understand them. She saw their pain, their anger, their desperate longing for peace. With a child's innocence, she spoke to them, not with words, but with empathy. She acknowledged their suffering, their loss. She offered them forgiveness, not for them, but for herself, for the fear they had instilled in her. And slowly, the house began to quiet. Section 11. The Nightmare Continues. The whispers faded, replaced by a heavy silence. The shadows retreated, but they did not disappear entirely. The house still held its secrets, its sorrow. The Thompson family had survived their encounter with the supernatural, but they were forever changed. They left the house on the hill, but the experience stayed with them, a chilling reminder that some houses never truly let go of their past. And somewhere, in the shadows of that old Victorian house, The whispers still linger, waiting for the next unsuspecting family to cross the threshold.